Courtship as psychological reconnaissance. Opening reflection. What if the early stages of a relationship weren't about proving your worth, impressing someone, or falling headfirst into a fantasy, but instead were a form of quiet investigation, a psychological reconnaissance mission, not in a cold or manipulative way, but as a strategic act of self-protection, emotional intelligence, and vision. Because beneath the chemistry, beneath the first dates and the goodnight texts, there is always one question quietly shaping your entire future. Is this person aligned with the terrain of my life, or are we building in enemy territory without even knowing it? Most people don't ask that early enough. They fall in love before they gather intelligence. They invest before they observe. And they lose themselves before they've learned who the other person even is. That is why we explore this now. Courtship as psychological reconnaissance. 1. The nature of courtship as terrain assessment. Courtship is often treated like a performance or a test. People show up wearing their best emotional costume. They rehearse charm, rehearse openness, rehearse attentiveness. But underneath that surface-level warmth is something much more vital. Courtship is not just dating. It is a scouting mission. It is the act of assessing a new psychological landscape, carefully, intelligently, and without falling asleep at the wheel. You are learning the terrain of someone else's mind, trauma, desires, patterns, defenses, and values. You are paying attention not just to what they say, but how they respond under pressure, how they listen, how they handle ambiguity, how they treat themselves. These are not tests you administer. These are patterns you witness. And most importantly, these are signals of what life with them will actually feel like when the early novelty wears off. 2. Psychological reconnaissance is not manipulation. Let's be clear, psychological reconnaissance is not game playing. It's not about deception or getting an edge. It's about truth. In strategy, reconnaissance is used to understand the field before sending troops blindly into danger. In love, it's about seeing clearly before handing over your heart. That is not cold. That is not calculating. That is intelligent. It is emotionally mature. And it is the only way to avoid fighting battles later that could have been avoided with deeper awareness in the beginning. So we must let go of the romanticized idea that if it feels good in the moment, it must be right. No, what feels good is not always what is real, and what is real will eventually show itself. Your job is to be awake enough to see it before you commit to a future that's built on illusion. 3. What you're actually looking for during courtship. So what are we scouting for? What are we observing? Here are the areas of psychological reconnaissance that matter most during early courtship. 1. Regulation under pressure. Do they become reactive when challenged? Do they weaponize silence, anger, or passive aggression? Or can they stay grounded when the energy shifts? A person's ability to stay regulated when things don't go their way is one of the most important predictors of relational health. 2. Ownership of their past. Do they talk about their exes with contempt or accountability? Is their past a list of people who wronged them? Or do they have clarity and self-responsibility? People who blame their entire history on others will one day blame you. 3. Responsiveness to boundaries. When you say no, do they respect it? When you ask for space, do they push, guilt, or shame? Or do they honor your pace with grace? You're not just looking for compatibility, you're looking for mutual respect of autonomy. 4. Emotional curiosity. Do they ask thoughtful questions? Do they show interest in your inner world, or do they quickly turn things back to themselves? Emotional curiosity signals empathy, depth, and the ability to co-navigate complex terrain. 5. Conflict style. Even if it's subtle at first, pay attention to how disagreement arises. Do they escalate, withdraw, retaliate, or stay present? Their default conflict posture will shape the emotional climate of your connection. 4. Romance is the camouflage. Here's the challenge. Romantic chemistry is a kind of camouflage. It makes people ignore data. It floods the nervous system with dopamine and oxytocin, bonding agents that make everything feel safe, beautiful, and promising, even when danger signs are right there in plain sight. That's why strategy is needed. Because strategy is what holds the line when your hormones try to write a fairy tale. It's the pause that says, this feels good, but let's observe a little longer before calling it truth. We don't scout terrain with our feelings. We scout with our eyes, our memory, our discernment, our pattern recognition. Love is beautiful, but it cannot replace information. 5. The strategic mindset shift, from hope to inquiry. Too many people enter courtship hoping for a specific outcome, hoping this will be the one, hoping this time is different. Hope is not a strategy. Inquiry is. Go in not with a heart begging to be claimed, but with a mind that wants to understand the truth of what it is engaging with. This doesn't mean you close off. It means you soften with awareness, not fantasy. You don't rush to define the relationship. You observe the relationship as it defines itself through behavior. This mindset shift creates emotional leverage. You are not trying to win the person. You are trying to see them. 6. Strategic listening and pattern mapping. During courtship, every conversation is a reconnaissance report. You are not just listening for what is said, you are mapping patterns. Do they follow through? Do their stories match their actions? Do they tell you one version of themselves and live another? You are watching for dissonance. You are listening for relational intelligence or the lack of it, and you are especially attuned to how your own body feels around them over time. Is there tension? Do you start to filter your truth? Do you feel pressure to please, impress, or perform? These are signs. The data is always there, but only if you are not hypnotized by the glitter of early chemistry. 7. Timing and tactical withholding. Not every truth needs to be revealed immediately. Strategic withholding is not deceit, it's pacing. During reconnaissance, you are allowed to delay disclosure. You don't need to pour out your traumas on the second date. You don't need to share your most sacred dreams before trust has been established. Withholding is not avoidance. When it's conscious, it's protection. Reveal at the speed of safety. Disclose at the speed of discernment. That's how you know whether the terrain can actually support the weight of your truth. 8. How most people get it wrong. Here is the most common trap. People treat courtship as a performance. They think if they impress, the other person will stay. But in doing so, they bypass the entire point, to witness each other as you are, not as you pretend to be. The goal is not to be chosen. The goal is to choose wisely. If you're so busy trying to be desirable that you forget to observe, you will walk into a relationship blind, and it is much harder to leave once you've attached. Most relationships that crash and burn don't fail due to what happened in the middle. They fail because no one did reconnaissance at the beginning. 9. Psychological safety as the true victory. When reconnaissance is done well, the result is not control, it's clarity. You enter with your eyes open. You respond, not react. And you choose love with grounded awareness. This creates psychological safety, not just for you, but for both of you. Because no one is pretending, no one is rushing, and no one is sacrificing truth just to secure a title. This is how real intimacy begins, not with fireworks, but with accurate maps of who we are, where we stand, and whether the terrain between us is actually navigable. 10. Final strategic principle. Every early relationship is a field mission, and every conversation, every moment of conflict, every boundary, every silence is data. If you gather that data without trying to control it, if you observe more than you project, if you listen more than you explain, you will know things that most people never know until it's too late. You will see what others miss, and in that awareness, you will not fall in love blindly. You will walk toward love with open eyes, and that is the only love worth building. If this opens something in you, if you want to keep learning how to navigate love with intelligence, strategy, and clarity, subscribe to Strategic Intimacy. There's so much more to uncover, and this is just the beginning. Next episode, we'll go even deeper into the cost of unconscious attachment with why most relationships fail before the first battle. A breakdown of how misaligned pacing, reactive bonding, and ignored red flags turn promising connections into unnecessary war zones. Don't miss it.